Chapter 1083, titled The Truth of That Day, begins on Kamabaka Island. Sabo says we accomplished everything we set out to do, all three objectives were taken care of. We officially declared war. By destroying the celestial dragon symbol, we rescued Kuma and freed as many slaves as possible. Finally we managed to find and destroy the Holy Land's food reserves. Sabo asks, so what was the fallout? Ivankov replies and says it was nothing to sneeze at, but we got the world's attention, and the Navy ended up sending in the big guns. Dragon says meanwhile we triggered uprising in 12 nations where we held strong influence, 8 of which were successful. Ivankov says well you say 8 were successful but one of them vanished, the kingdom Lulusia. As such, the 7 nations are no longer paying the heavenly tribute nor exporting natural resources. Ivankov adds that the Revolutionary Army is attacking world government supply carriers all over the world to keep resources from reaching the Holy Land. Ivankov considers this a huge success, as now, the people of Marie-Joise can see what it is like to be deprived of food and money. Ivankov stands up and laughs, and says that's what I call a result. Dragon says indeed we may not be able to cut all their supplies, but we are squeezing them slowly, but surely they must be struggling by now. He knows, of course, that the world government will not accept this situation and will dispatch God's Knights, which Dragon says is the real battle once they mobilize. Ivankov tells Sabo that does he realize that he will be the #1 target, or should I start calling you Flame Emperor Boy? Sabo says I'm not too hot on that name. Dragon says it doesn't matter what the truth behind King Cobra's assassination was, the news report have made you a hero already, and he adds that in the eyes of revolutionaries everywhere, authority figures within the world government are hated for being superhuman monsters. While there are certainly many malignant, power-hungry despots who deserve that reputations, and there are also a number of intelligent and fair rulers. And Arabasta's King Cobra was in a class of his own. Everyone considered him to be an outstanding sovereign. Unfortunately misinformation spreads faster than nuances like that. Sabo says this might be cold to say, but while I feel bad for what happened to Cobra, but I think I can live with the way things turned out, if it helps fuels the flames of rebellion. Dragon says, my, you really are unspeakable. Ivankov says then spit it out already. As he shows a picture of Sabo standing over Cobra's body in the newspaper, and says what happened, is there any truth behind this scoop, and confesses everyone wanted to believe he did not kill him. In a flashback over a month ago at the home of the gods in the Holy Land of Marie-Joise, the Revolutionary Army attacked Marie-Joise not long after the reverie began. Several world nobles started fleeing out of fear. One of them says get out of here and help us you lousy bureaucrats. They blew up the storehouse. The intruders are with the Revolutionary Army. We are under attack. It's the 4 captains. This is outrageous. They first attacked our beloved symbol, and now the Pelbs have taken away our exquisite food. Does the jealousy of the vermin have no bounds? I don't even want to keep the heads, just dispose them. An ugly man says after that summon all those dreadful bodyguards and have them executed. Those miserable wretches allowed this to happen. One of them tried to kill their slave for being too slow, but he is saved by Karasu, who steals the noble's gun and tells the slave to escape to the east of the city. The world noble's bodyguards open fire on Karasu, but he takes no damage. As it turns out, Karasu ate the susu no mi, which allows him to turn his body into soot and morph it to his will. With it, he dispatches his attackers using a move called Obelisusu. Meanwhile, Lindbergh uses his inventions to free several slaves as Karasu notifies him that the admirals are on their way. It is not long before Karasu finds himself fighting Fujitora, using a move called Karasu Renkin to match Fujitora's gravity powers. Elsewhere, Morley is fighting Ryokugyu, though several world nobles demand Ryokugyu be more careful for collateral damage or they will hang him, forcing Ryokugyu to hold back. When he asks Fujitora what he is doing, Fujitora reveals he is about to call down a meteor, which Ryokugyu says is a bad idea. On the outskirts of the city, Jabra, Bluno, Khalifa, Fukuro, and Kumadori, who are all now members of CP0, watch the carnage and admit how tough the Revolutionary Army is to be able to contend with the likes of 2 admirals. Karasu then contacts Sabo, who was at Pangaea Castle trying to get the keys for the slaves' collars. Sabo also tells Lindbergh that he sees St. Charlos and his father Rosward riding Kuma, as well as telling him that Charlos still plans on making Shirahoshi his slave. In the end, Sabo contacts Morley to make sure everything is ready while he initiates his plan to save Kuma and stop Charlos. In addition, Jewelry Bonnie was running around the castle grounds too in search of her father. Meanwhile, Rob Lucci follows Nefertari Vivi, who is looking for Vice Admiral Garp to protect Shirahoshi. Vivi denies Lucci's help, following his refusal to help Shirahoshi earlier. She also says that she is sure that Charlos would try to kidnap Shirahoshi again, and she wants to make sure he cannot. Back at the castle, Cobra is told that only he can have an audience with the 5 elders. Pell and Chaka try to refute this, but Cobra has them stand down, instead asking them to look after Vivi for him and not let her out of their sights. Sabo defeated several guards within Pangaea Castle when Jewelry Bonnie appeared before him, to his surprise. She told him that since they were after the same thing, they should just work together now. Sabo accepted, revealing that he had heard that Bartholomew Kuma had a daughter. Once he got the keys to the slaves' collars, Bonnie told Sabo that she had been keeping tabs on the Revolutionary Army's exploits, so she knew that they were trustworthy to care for her father's body. Sabo handed the keys to one of Karasu's Soot Crows and told Karasu to pass on the message that Morley and the others should get Kuma and the slaves to headquarters as fast as possible. As Karasu accepted the keys, he told Sabo to be careful. Sabo then asked Bonnie what she would do next, and she told him she would journey to Egghead to see if Dr. Vegapunk could undo his alterations to Kuma's mind. Before she could tell him what she would do if Vegapunk was unable to do so, Sabo sensed some guards and the two hid from them. The guards commented that they were short-staffed, and one of them mentioned that some guards had seen the lost chamber, which piqued Sabo's attention. After Sabo and Bonnie exited the castle, Sabo wished Bonnie luck and she told him to look after her father for her. Elsewhere, the 5 elders asked King Cobra what he wanted to speak to them about. Cobra told them that he knew the world government had been founded 800 years ago when 20 monarchs had come together, along with their families, to live as one clan, the world nobles, and rule over their world. At first, the 20 monarchs had treated each other equally and installed an empty throne to ensure that no dictator would try to rise up from them, placing weapons before the throne to symbolize the vow of never sitting on it. Afterwards, new royal families had been hand-picked to rule the nations the founders could not watch over anymore, and to ensure a smooth transition, all references to the previous monarchs had been removed from their home countries. Cobra said that the sole exception was the monarch of his own kingdom. Queen Nefertari Lily, who had chosen to remain ruling over her people in Arabasta, which is why there are only 19 weapons at the feet of the empty throne. The elders confirmed his story and asked what his point was, and Cobra said that through all the accounts chronicling the period after the Void Century he managed to scrounge together, Lily's name was not mentioned once. To Cobra, he believed Queen Lily never made it back home, and the ruler of the country ended up being her younger brother. To that, he asked if they knew what exactly happened to her. Saint J. Garcia Saturn said that because it was so long ago, the details of what exactly happened to her were lost to the annals of history. Cobra then asked the 5 elders what the secret name D meant. When one elder asked what prompted this question, Cobra revealed that a short letter had been passed down from generation to generation by Lily. Outside in the public courtyard, Saint Charlos made his move on Shirahoshi, having Kuma tie her up in chains. Charlos started dancing over his accomplishment, and gushed over the idea of riding her everywhere and harming her if she defied him. She started begging for someone to save her, but the bystanders were too scared to interfere and all ran away pretending they had not seen a thing. Her brother Fukabashi rushed to save her, apologizing for looking away earlier, which had allowed Charlos to seize her. His brothers Ryuboshi and Manbashi joined him, but Charlos simply told Kuma to blast them as he proclaimed that he could buy permission to do whatever he wanted, especially against fishmen and merfolk. Rebecca and Leo saw Shirahoshi being assaulted, and Sai asked Saint Don Quixote Mjosgard if he could hit Charlos, to which Mjosgard said Sai could and he would take responsibility for it. Mjosgard told Fukabashi to restrain himself since he was of royal blood, but for Leo and Sai, since the two were pirates, Mjosgard thought it was easier for them to escape since they were bound to no country. Charlos tried to blast Mjosgard for hitting him earlier, but Leo and Sai attacked Charlos simultaneously and practically flattened him with their attacks. All the nearby people started panicking over the possibility that Charlos was dead and that the admirals would be summoned. As Kuma was about to fire another blast at Sai and Leo, Morley suddenly appeared from the ground and subdued Kuma, begging that they go home together. Karasu arrived with the keys, and Morley said they should all head down now. Meanwhile, in the throne room, Amu appeared before the 5 elders who were surprised because Cobra was still present, and sat down on the empty throne, horrifying Cobra as Amu said Lily's name. "Hey you, Yes, I mean you. Before you leave, don't forget to press that subscribe button. And what are your thoughts on this chapter? Leave your answers in the comments section below.